Okay, so I'm going to try to show you guys how I made my spinner on the falls. I just cut a new one out. I put a little tab, and right there I'm pointing out the actual pedal features. And you can't see it that well on that, it was not that extensive. But here's a paper model with a real extensive spinner. Look at that. That's more typical of what you see. It's the spinner of a zero. And if you look at that, you can see that there's a real, you cut those all out, and how on earth do you get them to look good? It's not easy. There's a way people have done it using a jig, and you can see in the back there, you can see little strips of what it looks like when it's done. There's a way to do it with a jig, but I do it a little differently. Here's an example of a little airplane I made. The torpedo is made that way. And you can see on this Devastator, you can see that I've made my pedals. I actually touched up with a little bit of paint. Not the best, but it doesn't look bad. It looks very passable, not horrible. And then this one is an example of the same kind of thing. It's a torpedo on a big old Fiesler torpedo bomber. But what I did with this one was it was a pedal, but then I filled it and sanded it and primed it and painted it. So that's why this one looks the way it does. But you can see with, by being careful, you can get a structure that looks like it's full-blown plastic, and you can't see the pedal at all. A lot of purists, paper model purists, which I'm not one, would frown on that, I think, but I don't mind. I want to get it to look good. So this doesn't turn out as well as I wanted, but it at least gives you the idea. So I cement a little tab on there, and I want to just make this thing go around and glue to itself to make a little cone. So I took my little bamboo skewer and I just start rolling it on top of my little mouse pad. Again, the camera work is horrendous. This is why I have 3 followers. And do that little bit just like we've shown before until you get it to come around, and then you glue it together. And in my case, I'll just glue it carefully. And again, the reason this isn't the best example is I'm not going to use the spinner. This is just roughly cut out. Even the pedal parts you'll see aren't perfect, and they'd be better if I was really, really careful. I just wanted to show you because I didn't show you on the falls at all. It just showed up. So I'm squeezing that closed, making sure it dries. And then once it dries, I'm going to try to point out what the pedal looks like before and after my treatment. So there it is. And you can see the opening, and if you look carefully you can see the edges of the pedal. And what I do is I turn it over, I take one of these little dabber tools, it's a little round, perfectly round tool, and I go in there and I push down and roll it around just like that onto my mat. And I also push like that. See, as I'm pushing from the tip back and then from the inside back, and all of that is making it curve. Again, roll it around, and in this case, push down and sort of push it towards the tip of what will be the spinner. And when you turn this over, I hope you can see, again, this isn't perfect because I didn't do a great job of cutting it out, but the one side, when we push it over, I'll try to point it out with the tweezers or an X-Acto, that you can definitely see that the pedal pieces have come together. You can see there's no air on those edges where they are, and I'm trying to point out where they are. 1, 2, 3, several places. Now again, there's a big gap, but that's because of poor cutting in the first place. But that does look different than it did before. You can do that for as long as you want, and then what I do is, you can kind of see it. It's pretty closed. And then what I do is I then fill the end. I fill the inside with a little bit of fast drying glue, and then put in fast drying glue and a little accelerator, and then you got a nice hard tip of the spinner. And if you need to, you can do some sanding and rounding and filling, but that's basically the idea.